We rocking? Good. Good afternoon everyone. My name is Bill. I'm one of the product specialists here at ROOT6 Technology. ROOT6 Technology is the product development arm of ROOT6, the reseller, and we've been around for about 15 years now, and we make a product called Content Agent. We're going to look at file-based delivery today under the title Flexible File-Based Delivery, and we're going to do that via two case studies. So that's obviously the elephant in the room, UK AS-11 DPP, and then we're also going to look at how we can do multi-platform international deliveries flexibly through Content Agent. So, file delivery, why? So currently our production workflows are nearly all end-to-end file-based. Our broadcast workflows are also already nearly entirely file-based as well. We've just sort of got this step where we play out to a tape, run that over the road, and we ingest that on the other side to be turned back into a file for internal systems. So if you have come to our Stepping Stones event about a month ago now, you would have seen Simon Brett, Director of Operations at Fox International Channels, talking about how he saved £4,000 out the door in the first month just by switching to this file-based delivery. And alongside that came time savings for him and his staff. So there's a lot of good news to be happy about, but it's not all good. We need some new working practices with these challenges that are presented by files, and also there's an increasing range of delivery requirements we're going to come across as codecs and things become more popular. So the first thing we're going to look at is UK AS-11 DPP delivery. That's going to become mandatory on the 1st of October, so we're going to get our teeth into that. And then we're also going to look at a project I worked on recently where we had one program master, an 83-page delivery specification, and we had to reversion 56 different deliveries with all different frame rates, frame sizes, all sorts of challenges to overcome. So, AS-11 DPP. So, first of all, what is the DPP? So, the Digital Production Partnership. So this is a consortium of UK broadcasters that came together to look at transitioning to digital workflows. That could include tape, and now it's all about transitioning from tape-based delivery to file-based delivery. And not only do they provide a specification which we can make use of in frameworks, they also provide some best practice and some shared thinking. And this is going to become mandatory on the 1st of October 2014, so we need to be ready for that. So that's the DPP bit, but this AS-11 bit everyone talks about as well. What is that? So AMWA, who are the Advanced Media Workflow Association, put together a number of frameworks for applications of media. So this goes all the way through from AS02 right up to AS12, I think, at the moment. From applications such as archive through to commercial delivery. And these are all frameworks based around MXF. So AS-11 is all about standardizing program contribution for long form. So what DPP do is they take the good work by the people of AMWA and they apply their own set of rules, constraints, practices to it. And that's what this shim is that people talk about. It's this new set of rules specific to UK for DPP they apply to AS-11. So, very good of them, thank you, but why is it necessary? So, I'm sure you're all aware, it's a huge range of codecs around, files around, good for different things, popular in different places, and if we're constantly transcoding, changing between those, it's going to cost us time, it's going to cost us money, and ultimately it's going to cost us quality, no matter how well it's done, on our content. Equally, there's an operational side that needs to be addressed. If we've got hundreds of thousands of files floating around now, and they don't have accurate agreed metadata that everyone can understand, we may as well not have them at all, because they're going to get lost. And then we also need new range of quality control checks to combat these problems that files can introduce. So we're going to just sort of break down the elements of AS-11 DPP delivery, and we're going to go through it in a number of steps. So we're going to assume that you've got out of bed all right, you've got a program master, you've got some finished audio, you've collated your metadata from somewhere. We're then going to look at the AS-11 file, what's in it, what is it, what's inside it, how we make it, and then we're going to look to check that the quality of that file is good using traditional quality control methods and then newer file-based quality control methods. And then we'll be going on to final delivery at the end and looking at some of the practices that are used for file delivery. So, right, the AS-11 file, what is it? So, we need to think of it in some ways as being analogous to a tape. It's got a container, and inside our container is contained video essence, it's contained audio essence, and it's contained timecode. The difference here is that it's a file and that we're embedding that tape report we traditionally had, file metadata, it's now embedded into the file. So, MXF is the container we use, it's an OP1A MXF. This is material exchange format, and it's a standardized format, so it's not a proprietary file format at QuickTime. And we can do a number of things with it. We can unwrap it and rewrap it. If we're happy with the video and audio inside, or we want to change certain elements, we can do that. And it's a much quicker process, and it can also carry our metadata inside, like I just mentioned. So our video essence that we put inside. So for HD, we use ABC Intra, and this is a format developed by Panasonic, and it's based on the ABC H.264 specification. Now there are different varieties around that you need to be wary of when choosing an encoding solution. So AS-11 uses a very particular type of bit stream, and that's the RP2027 bit stream from SMPTE. It's different to the traditional Panasonic P2 variety that's much more common in the marketplace. One of the reasons is that it writes parameter sets very frequently through the file that are important for decoder interoperability and are important that we can play it from any point. So you need to be sure your encoder can produce its exact type of bit stream. If it doesn't say it can, it's probably not. There's also an SD specification more for delivering legacy content, and you'll be told if you need to deliver this. But this is based on a D10 IMAX and Sony. We've then got a number of audio requirements that we have to think about. So for HD, we're delivering 4 16 tracks and in various channel configurations, depending on if it's stereo, if there's MD, maybe there's a 5.1 mix in there. Always 4 or 16 tracks though. Again, SD has its own specification, and this all has to comply with DD-ROL and 2A gladness, and that's something we're going to come on to in a bit because it's a very important part of the new QC practices. So, metadata, again, the other element that we're embedding into our file. So we've got 3 frameworks that live in our file, 3 metadata frameworks. They are the AS-11 core framework, the AS-11 DPP framework, and the AS-11 segmentation framework. So we spread a number of elements of metadata across these, and these are the editorial, technical, and the segmentation metadata. So editorial, more production-based metadata. This is going to be things like series, synopsis. This is going to be spread across the AS-11 core and the AS-11 DPP frameworks that are in your file. We've also got technical metadata. Now a good solution is going to be able to populate some of it itself for you, but you're also going to need to describe your track layout in the file so people know what they're expecting on the other side. And then we've also got the segmentation data. So this this describes how your program is made up. So is it a soft-parted program or a hard-parted program? At the top we can see soft-parted program, so that's an end-to-end finished piece with no obvious part breaks in it. It doesn't mean your broadcaster won't put part breaks in it, but we're really going to use the hard-parted when there's a need for a commercial break in there. You know, we'll find out what happens after the break, and it sounds ridiculous if there's nothing in there. So all this is encoded into our MXF using the very common key-length value method of encoding, which allows us to very quickly navigate through metadata and messages we don't understand. One of the key things AS-11 does that can be harnessed to make very quick workflows is that they specify some spare space at the end of the metadata header, and this can be taken advantage of by a good solution to alter metadata without rewrapping. So rewrapping does take tens of minutes. You know, a good solution can do this in seconds if they can take advantage of this. So that's what's in our AS-11 file, those are the elements, and if you've got a good solution that can produce it, that's great, but we still need to think about the quality control elements of it, check it's good. So we've still got our traditional visual QCs that we need to be performing, checking that the dialogue is clear, that the spelling's correct, things that are completely within legal parameters but aren't necessarily obvious to a computer. Alongside that, we're going to be doing a number of file-based checks now, and these aren't just on sort of video and audio, they're checking that the ones and zeros of the file are in the right place, that sort of thing. So I like to think of the file-based quality control really divided into 3 areas. So we're looking at file integrity checks, it's the data where it should be, it's the time code correct? Is it the right bit rate, the right codec, etc.? But then we're also going to be running algorithms on our video essences to check, for example, that the PSE testing, has it passed, that's legal, the colour's legal. And then we're also going to be looking at loudness, checking that within our file and that the audio essences are correct. So one of the key elements I've highlighted there is the PSE FBA testing. So this is also often referred to as Harding testing. There are other algorithms available which are also accepted by Ofcom and in turn by the DPP, so approved for UK broadcast. But you need to be testing your content with one of these devices. And there is a list published by the DPP which describes acceptable devices. And again, this has to be described within the metadata of the file. The testing device has it passed, has it failed, and what version of it is. We also have, when we're measuring the loudness of our file, we need to be think about using a new measurement, and this is something that's gathered pace recently, and it's called EV-R128, probably most commonly referred to, based on the parent specification from the ITU. So what this does is applies a metric and a perceptual psychological weighting to the effects of audio. Now that's different to PPM, which is purely electrical based signal with sound pressure based checks, and we measure this across the entire program duration. So PPM, like I said, is used to pretty much solely avoid peak distortion of our peak electrical signal. There are slight weightings to it, but what we get with PPM often is that heavily compressed sections of audio, so a chunky guitar, for example, can often be perceived as much louder as it has a low peak level, but a high loudness. Things like a triangle have quite a high peak level, but a low loudness level overall. So it's probably bad news if you're on some sort of guitar triangle fusion band. So we're then going to move over to EBU, and that's going to give us a much better second album, hopefully. So what we do are a few things. First of all, we apply a few filters, and these add human elements to it. So one we apply for the shape, to account for the shape of the human head, but then we also apply another filter when we're measuring it, and this accounts for the fact that humans perceive high-level audio as high-frequency audio, it's louder. So then what we do is we do a mathematical trick, I guess, called the root means, and what that means is that we get an average value for loudness over the whole program duration, a statistical measurement that gives us an average magnitude for that varying quantity. And then we do one other thing, so we gate it after that to not include silences or low-level audio. So that is summed across the whole program duration, and what that does is that gives us the perceptual loudness when a bit normalization between programs is often much more consistent between programs rather than peak loudness, which tends to vary. Ultimately, what this gives you is less need for compression and a greater dynamic range within your program, and so ultimately more freedom when mixing. Alongside that, we're still doing our visual quality control checks. So it sounds obvious, but these need to be done on a broadcast monitor, something that can play out via SDI and understand AS-11 DPP files in the bit stream, which isn't everything. So once we've done that, we've checked that the visual elements of our file are good, we've checked that we've also done the required automated quality control checks, and then we've just got to think about the final delivery. So the DPP publish a number of sort of devices, methods, in sort of a preferred order, if you look at the producer's guide. So UDP accelerator, that's a different protocol to traditional sort of internet transfers, and this is something like Spira, Signium, Fire Catalyst. Obviously the most preferred is some private line. It's quite expensive obviously, but there are internet protocols as well to transfer this. It seems that there'll always be some sort of free or very low cost option from the broadcaster for using a UDP accelerator that they can provide. After that, we might be looking at secure FTP protocols. Again, you'll probably need permission from your broadcaster to do that, but then we've got a few others we can fall back on, so hard disk, again, permission from the broadcaster, and LTO down the bottom of the list, which again needs broadcaster approval in advance. So I know it sounds obvious, but file transfer does take time, and you'll be given a window when you need to upload, so just be aware of when that is. The advantage of using a UDP product is it gives you, most importantly, a predictable time estimate of how long that's going to take, so we can be more sure that you're going to meet that window. At the start of your DPP document provided by your broadcaster as well, there's probably going to be some specific naming convention you need to adhere to, so just be aware of that, and they might require XMLs for internal asset management systems or other testing certificates, for example your PSE testing certificates. So after that you've delivered your file, broken it down to the elements. So we can see that it is quite a complex specification, there's a lot to worry about, but ultimately the advantage of it is it's going to be the same every time we deliver, and we can make repeatable processes and turn these challenges into benefits. So we found when we're helping customers piece together their DPP workflows that kit the parts is inefficient, it requires a lot of user intervention, and that centralising it actually is better, more predictable results. So they're removing human error by taking out these traditional operator tasks. It can be running again and again, and this is freeing them up for other tasks, more creative tasks perhaps. So that's what we've really based Content Agent on. So Content Agent is ROOT6 Technology's file-based workflow automation tool. So what it's about is taking those tasks traditionally done by operators, running around, doing a file copy, doing whatever, quick transcode, running it through a QC product, and bringing them all under one roof as a scalable and automated process. And you can intuitively design those yourselves and include logic. So all these elements within the workflow, metadata, delivery, passing it on to QC, whatever, playing it out via SDI, visual quality control, can all now be taken under one roof. So we can centralise that process. So this is our workflow designer that we can intuitively piece together individual jobs on. So down the left we've got all sorts of individual tasks, be it some sort of transcode, some quality control process, an unwrap or rewrap. And we can piece together this tree, so if we read it from left to right, we can span out both parallels and serial processes to make quite complex workflows. So with the DPP elements of the workflow, we've got a big powerful database behind Content Agent, which means you can handle the metadata and in a way that suits you. So perhaps you want to have an operator entering it within the Content Agent UI, sort of in a style similar to the DPP metadata wrap if you use that. That can all be taken care of. But also, perhaps you've got a more automated process, you're creating your XML and your metadata is kept somewhere else, so we can also ingest a full XML with file metadata ready to go into your DPP AS-11 file. Creating the file is really the simplest bit within Content Agent. We take the fact that the spec is tied down, we only give you control over what you can control in the spec, so if it's SD or HD when the time code is going to start. So we provide this sort of one-stop DPP shop, which is going to encode all your sources, wrap it correctly, inject all the metadata, and pass it off to the next step of the workflow, which in this particular instance is some quality control. So we integrate with other products which do quality control really well. One of our favourites is VidChecker. So VidChecker, you can build all sorts of custom templates. We don't tie you down to what is just provided as a system template, so you can really cater to your own quality control needs, and we integrate seamlessly with that to also pull back all the testing metadata, and that can be used further down the line to automate processes, or perhaps inject back into your file very quickly and easily that you passed the FPA test or whatever. And that's what the next bit's really about. So this is a feature we've added very recently, which if you remember that empty space in the MXF header I was just talking about, we can now modify and update that very quickly within Content Agent as well. So instantaneously update metadata, and that can all be incorporated as part of the workflow as well. So you've never got a file, for example, floating around that says it's passed PSE testing and it hasn't. And all that can be brought under one roof and triggered either from a watch folder, simple commands within the UI, or if you've got a more complex system you want to drive it by the API, that's possible as well. And if you want to see that in action afterwards, come and find us outside. So next we're going to look at another challenging workflow that I've worked on recently, and that's multi-platform international delivery. So this customer came to me, they had one program master, they had to deliver 56 versions out of it, metadata requirements and frame rate requirements. So I'm just going to start with a quick analogy that was how that workflow was before I arrived, so bear with me. So imagine I run a snack shack, okay, and for some reason it's about similar to real life really, or I can cook hot dogs, crepes and pizzas from a frozen commodity as well. So first guy comes along, he wants a hot dog, so I make my hot dog, I wrap it up, I take his money, I pay it to him. No, he pays me and I give it to him. Then the next guy comes along, he wants a crepe, so I swap over all my equipment, get out those little griddle things, make my crepe, and then wrap it up, pay it, and then whatever. And then the next guy comes along, he wants a pizza, so I change over my equipment. You get the idea. I'm chopping back and forwards, it's inefficient, and a lot of the same processes are being done again. So I look at expanding my business. So then I go and I have 3. So now I've got a little dude here that makes pizza, a guy here who makes crepes, and a guy who makes hot dogs. That's a big improvement. I'm paralysing and I'm increasing my throughput. But it's still not perfect because it's not really obvious what each little booth is for, and I've got people in the wrong queue for the wrong product. So invest in some signage, and now it's really easy and clear to see what's going on. People are queuing the right way, the queues are moving faster, and I can quickly see by standing back what's going on, but I can zoom in for a bit of high-level detail as well if I want. And then they're still doing the same thing at the end. They're all taking money, they're all wrapping it up, they're all taking an order. So then that's a process that's the same for all of them, and I can look at passing on down the chain in sort of a serial way, and I add this order collection with it. So I know it's a bit ridiculous and a good chance to show off my clip art, but what it shows about our workflow is that it needs to be clear and concise. We need to be able to get a good esoteric view of it, work out what's going on, but then we still need to be able to maintain that same level of control. So we need to be able to dive right in, change things, chroma subsampling, something very, a deeply technical element or whatever. We then need to be able to do these in parallel. We don't want them to be bumping along one after the other, but sometimes it's suitable to serialize the process as well, and it's got to be easy to do. So that's what Content Agents Workflow Designer, again, is all about. So we are able to, in parallel, create all these formats. So we can easily see from above that, well, you can't on this diagram, but it's, when you look at it in the UI, you get a quick overview of what's going on, what format's being made, and where it's going. But we're still maintaining the same level of control. Just go to that element, go right in, and make a complicated spec that's easy to see still. Again, many of the same processes are easy to parallelize and serialize. File copying to the same location can all be pushed out to other jobs. We don't have to specify it all in the same place. And we can add a logic chain to that, so we can examine metadata, be it standard technical metadata within the file, or your own custom XML, as Content Agent can learn from your schema layouts and other items about what metadata to expect, so you can use in-house schemas and work with all sorts of file name conventions or whatever to automate metadata processes and transcoding processes further down the line. So we had a few problems to overcome with this. We needed a wide range of frame rates, there were a lot of resolutions, we had to upscale, downscale, whatever, and we also had bespoke metadata to deliver to every delivery point. So let's start on the frame rate conversion. So obviously it used to be much easier. You had an NPAL, you had an NTSC master tape, but with files have come a huge sort of growth of frame rates. Do we do a segmented frame? Do we do 60p, 24p, whatever? And there needs to be a quality conversion between all of them. So traditionally you get a quality conversion with a hardware-based product, playing out to basebands, capturing back in on the other side, and that always traditionally gave the best quality, but there were costs, large costs, and it always happened in real time. There were software solutions you could use as well, but the quality typically not good enough, and that this sort of basic version of the optical flow algorithm they all used. So that's why products we started to integrate with have come along, and they are able to provide that high-end quality, sort of hardware-based conversion quality, but with the flexibility of a file-based workflow. So this uses NVIDIA Tesla cards, which have many sort of CUDA cores in, which are about parallel computing power. And we use many of those to vector the motion of pixels and provide high quality conversions on our frame rate. So this is all as well integrated fully into Content Agent's pipeline. So BBC Sport, actually, if you're going to be watching a little known football competition which starts today, they have 5 of these systems out in Rio, and everything you see on BBC Sports coverage that's not a live satellite feed or whatever will be going through Content Agent. And they're sort of set up five nodes that are all powering through hundreds of frame rate conversions a day. So it's not just between frame rates or whatever. I know this is quite a big list of requirements, but it's a very powerful tool, and we can also use more traditional frame rate conversion methods, sort of pull downs and stuff we can invoke. So that was the frame rate conversion element, and we could automate that all as part of the pipeline, use intelligence and those decision nodes to decide if we needed to frame rate convert from the master. But then alongside that, we also had to deliver a custom XML at every point. So this was made by the operator, traditionally typed each one out by hand. It took a long time, and also it introduced errors which ended up iterating down the chain, had to be unpicked further down. It was very messy. So what Content Agent features, and this is one of the big features that they invoked when using the product and designing their workflows, the fact that you can automatically build these schemas and populate them with metadata strings on the fly. So from one XML master file, you could make these 56 different delivery layouts. So that's what this is all about here. We can type out some sort of schema now, and this is just a text editor, and then we can either teach Content Agent about custom file metadata and use that to patch in metadata strings, or use more common technical metadata that Content Agent examples from the file to build up any XML schema requirement. So what we had now was unlimited XML schemas, really. They spent a bit of time setting up their 56 schemas, and then it was always auto-populated from the one master file. And this had exactly the same flexibility in the workflow, so it could equally be delivered via FTP, mail, whatever, passed up and zipped along with the file. So what we had were 2 pretty complex processes. They had a lot of caveats, a lot of things to worry about, and what we did was we centralized them, we removed that human error and gave repeatable, consistent results. So that was about sort of the file creation. Now I'm going to pass you over to Rupert, who's going to tell you more about some of the elements I haven't really touched on, which is sort of Playout on the other side and basebandy type of things. So over to Rupert.
Thank you, Bill. That's very good. So I'm just going to carry on where Bill left off and talk to you about the second 2 quadrants of what we regard as sort of the process by which you get from content creation in your media composing around it, Final Cut, Premiere, through the creation, and then obviously at this point we're into the QC and upload part of the process, and then obviously in due course somebody's going to need to play it out. And although I suspect there are many transmission facilities companies in today, I'll touch on what we've got that might make that easier. And indeed, if you want to be able to play back DPP AS-11 files internally and look at the parts, hard and soft parts, we've got technology that will allow you to do that, and all sorts of other things too. So let's dive into really just a kind of pointless backwards and forwards comparison when I was starting the process off. So I thought it would be interesting just to kind of try and make some comparisons between the 2. So obviously back in the day, you'd be doing your digital cut from your normally in your editor. In this instance, we would be getting into a Content Agent encode from a watch folder. What had been once a video cassette is now an XF file. What would have been a tape is, and this is kind of the reason I put this in, is there seems to be a certain amount of confusion about exactly what role AS-11 plays in the kind of food chain now and what role AS-02 plays. The intention, as far as Amber were concerned, was for AS-02 to be your HD cam master, the thing on the shelf that you would go back to and re-edit and cut the new version from, and so on and so forth. AS-11 is very much delivery. You fire it out, it goes to the transmission facility, and that remains how it is. You don't really want to be editing the AS-11 unless it's panic stations at the last minute and you've got some complete oversight in the file that you need to sort out, and there might possibly be a tool that could help you out on that front. in due course, but for now, if you need to reversion, you should be going back to the AS-11 file. Back in the day, you'd make an MPEG file, typically the broadcaster would translate your tape into some sort of transmission file of the old style. These days, that's more likely going to be an AS-11 D10. All the transmission companies I've met bitching like anything about the increasing capacity that they're going to need in terms of storage, and no one's going to pay them for that for about 5 years. So it's oversight the DPP may have made. So God, fixing a problem doesn't mean fixing. So obviously in the old days you had a courier. Nowadays you've got, in our view, a Spera, but obviously a variety of file transfer protocols that you can use to get it there. Again, in the good old days, apparently no longer, not even now, the broadcasters have kind of jacked it in, but you used to get a QC and, in my case, rejected regularly because I was an indie facility. They hated us. And obviously now you can do AQC on disk, and that's typically happening in your place if you've been sensible and purchased the checker from us. Stop us environment, or increasingly there are a number of companies who set it in Soho and around who will take your file, whatever your kind of output from your non-registers, and they'll perform AQC on your behalf and sort of stand behind it as they upload it to the broadcaster. And we've got one or two clients who kind of operate in that world, so it's possible to still have somebody else take responsibility if you don't want to be the last line before the transmission. And obviously in the old days you have a recording report that had long since gone west, in my experience, whereas now we're putting the descriptive metadata and all that stuff in the header, and hopefully that's, although I have to say, there was a get-together, I don't know if it's out of school or not, we went to a kind of DPP get-together where we all kind of sat around a large room with our noisy servers. In fact, I was told to turn mine off at one point. I think Constellation was the only machine that could read the descriptive metadata successfully. If I think Owen was there as the sort of master of ceremonies, checking everybody's descriptive metadata for them, because nobody else, including, unfortunately, the one I was using, could successfully interpret it. But I'm sure that's all that's fixed now. And obviously, once you've finished and you've made the submaster or the transmission master, you typically put your tape on the shelf until next time, when the syndicate comes back from MIP and wants to flog it to the Russians. Clearly that in its current form is going to be a modest challenge that needs fixing. Somebody's going to need to store your AS-11 and indeed your AS-02 in perpetuity against the time when you sell it for the next set of repeats or to whoever it is that you've managed to successfully resell it to. And again, in the old days, you probably have an Excel spreadsheet in which you had the location of your tape, which was on the shelf, and now it's more likely going to be some sort of map in which you've probably got proxies online that allow you to identify which of the many files in your archive you want to restore and send off to whoever it is that you need to send it to. So again, this is a slight recap of what Bill's been up to, but this is I thought this was sufficiently interesting when I was researching this talk that it's worth sharing. I certainly hadn't, as someone who wasn't in the kind of stream of things, taken the time to read the spec and look into it. So I assume there might be one or two people in the audience who are in a similar boat. So this is effectively the kind of top line SD, DPP, AS-11 spec. You've got D10, 576, 550, and so on. So an HD similarly. Actually, one question I have, which I'm going to ask going live, is the DPP shim, does that shim it to 80 inch or is AS-11 8100 across the board everywhere, or are there options that you could have chosen had you not been the DPP?
Well, AS-11 does.
Putting on the spot there.
It's just AS intro.
Right, it is.
SD.
Right, and then I think as Bill has also alluded, you've got the AS-11 core, which is kind of what Hamburg specified, and then there is a very large amount of additional stuff that DPP have jacked into the metadata, which includes things like the originator, the distributor, all this sort of stuff. This is AS-11 core, structural, these two here, picture ratio, the PSC parser, obviously local to the UK, and then even things like the contact email and the contact phone number. And it's when you look at stuff like this that you realise the fact that Constellation can rewrap the header very, very quickly is going to be quite important, because this sort of information is going to change after the fact, and you are going to need to whip open the header and change it on a fairly regular basis without wanting to do the whole file the way that the DPP app does. So once you've got the file, you've done everything you need to, and you're ready to send it. As again Bill alluded to, there's going to be a limited time window, generally speaking, in which you need to deliver it, and our recommendation is going to be a Spera. The reason for that is, you can see here, this sort of tower of blue box is effectively a demonstration that despite heavy latency on the various networks within a certain sort of area of tolerance, they're able to hit a timeline or deliver within a period of time that allows you to predict how long it's going to take you to get the file to a broadcaster. So obviously if you've got a window within which you're allowed to deliver, or indeed you've got a deadline that you've got to hit, then using a tool like Xpera will probably pay you dividends. And if you're a small company or a big company, as you can see here, they've got a range of tools and client applications that you can use. Generally speaking, the broadcaster's already invested in the kind of server at their end, and it may or may not require you to make a modest investment in order for you to interpret also transmit your data to their server using a Xpera client. Just one disk. You're going to need to encrypt it. I have to say I don't know what the encryption on disk is. I'm not sure that's clear. I think that's going to be individually determined. Unfortunately, TrueCrypt, as my colleague Phil Croy pointed out to me, is no longer, so I'm not quite clear what inexpensive encryption technologies they're planning to use, if any. And as Bill mentioned, you can use LTO, although they're not very keen on it. What I would suggest is that LTO technology, particularly Data, which we're showing just outside, is a very inexpensive way for you to store not only the file if you need to send it to a long distance to a broadcaster, but it also allows you to make sure you've got the production rushes, the AS-02 files, and indeed the AS-11 files stored in perpetuity on inexpensive non-volatile memory, which allows you to restore it fairly easily and search for it within the Data metadata. And it is fairly straightforward to use. It's something that production companies, people who aren't massively technical, can get into. And the reason I mention that is there are a lot of people who think LTFS is the sort of the second coming. In my experience, it's the second coming of Satan. And so I would suggest that you get into something like Data, which is LTFS compliant, will generate a real LTFS, as you can see here. It's carefully constructed comparative shot in which LTFS comes out really badly. There is only one selection, but it does allow you to do things like search the XML file, which it presents the LTO tapes in exactly the same way as if it were a FAR drive, but it actually mitigates all the nonsense of the fact that it's actually a linear tape, it's not a non-linear disk, and therefore operating systems that don't really understand that make life hard for you. Data does understand that, so it writes the data in a sensible, organised manner, which means you don't wait a month or Sundays for it to restore when you, generally speaking, are in a hurry. If you are in the game and you haven't yet read this, it's probably worth going to that website and downloading it. It's a rather nice, although slightly patronising document, which has lots of nice checklists for you to check things off if you have a mind to check things off. And as I think they'll probably mention, you're going to need to generate a PDF as your report, although in due course it will become an XML, and obviously both of those we will be able to provide for you from Constellation, and obviously to some extent via the good offices of the check as well. So having cantered through that, I was going to talk very briefly about Playout. Clearly there are a number of Playout systems out there that can't currently handle the AS-11 file format, don't understand the descriptive metadata as alluded to earlier, and generally speaking it's a bit of a hole. We represent a company called ROOT6 DPP, who have a very nice product called Venice, which does all sorts of things, but one of which is the ability to ingest and, as in load up, and play out DPP AS-11 files. The distinguishing characteristic about the way Venice is built is it uses the framework for interoperable media services, which is trips off the tongue, and it's essentially a sister project of AMWA. It is essentially an open API. It means if you're a transmission facility or indeed any sort of facility, if you're in the business of ingesting, transcoding or forming and or playing out, or indeed moving media around, there's an open API for you in Fields, and it means if you've got a service-oriented architecture, you've got overarching software enterprise whereby you've driven various things using your software, because it's an open API, typically Venice or Snell's box or whoever's box, which is Fields compliant, should theoretically behave in the same manner. So if you turn to record from that time code in the sort of API commands, it should effectively do the same thing. So it means you don't end up either getting locked into somebody's custom API and being stuck there and unable to change, despite the fact you'd like to, because you have to rewrite it for somebody else's API. So that's essentially something that Rowan Shorts and UDS have committed to. Everything in Venice is essentially written as Fields compliant activity. We don't do anything that's kind of custom dark. And so it's just I got a little bit excited with the smart art. Right, so multitasking. So just to explain that Venice also, despite the big things they do Playout, we also provide 4 channels of ingest per box, and it also transforms, so it'll basically flip let's say you've got a library of ProRes files that you no longer use because you're an Avid house now, you can flip all your ProRes into OpenAtom files in hardware if you so desire, or if you need to read timecode and all that kind of all sorts of normal things that one gets up to. What distinguishes it from a lot of the other equipment is it's effectively a network device. It's a Red Hat box which is open on a variety of sockets to various applications that look like this user interface here, but they run on Macintosh, operating system, Windows and Linux. So effectively you touch it over the network, you get the whole same GUI. Whatever you do on that GUI translates across the network to the box, so you can open up a channel of Venice pretty much anywhere in the network facility and get it to record or playback or transform without having to be in the same room with. This is a quick shot of the user interface. This is what a DPP AS-11 file looks like. Exciting. So I've loaded this from here, and what it's done is it's obviously automatically detected that it's got the line up and bars and tone and clock and the program segment there, and that's pretty much all there is to it. And it's in Playout mode, and you just hit play, and off to where it goes. A question I ran into the other day, we were up at a large transmission facility, and there wasn't no. That's all very well, but what about the thousands of files we need to prepare for transmission as AS-11 that are already on tape and in other file formats? You know, what on earth can we do? How can we make that easier? And this is something that a company called Refine that we sold business to, and I think a couple of other companies internationally are doing. They're effectively repurposing FlexiCast from the transmission end to the ingest end, so you've got multiple tape decks and lots of tapes. They automatically get loaded and played into the Venice, which is on 4 channels, or as many as you like. You can control an unlimited number of Venice channels. If you want to, under the FIMS protocol, this will ingest an ABC100 bit stream, which in turn we can wrap very quickly in Constellation. There's a discussion at the moment about how we would automate the arrival of the file with the injection of metadata from some sort of XML file, which would then wrap and ready those files in fairly short order for transmission either now or in the future. So you could spend a certain amount of time preparing people's archive library for AS-11 transmission in due course. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.